Forget everything you were taught in your school history books. When Christopher Columbus set foot on the shores of America in 1492, he did not discover a new continent. He was actually stepping onto a land whose soil had been pierced 500 years earlier by the colossal wooden ships of They were the Vikings. Through the dense fog of the Atlantic, a dragon-headed wooden ship glides slowly forward. All around is the roar of the ocean, a freezing wind, and an unyielding determination. There is no modern compass, nor any accurate map. Exactly 1,000 years ago, when the people of Europe believed that reaching the edge of the world meant falling into an endless abyss, they called it Vinland in their tongue. Its modern name is North America. But how did they cross this perilous path 500 years before Columbus? And how did modern science examine just a single piece of wood to confirm that the Vikings actually lived here, exactly in the year 1021 AD? Today, we are going to uncover that buried chapter of history. We will journey back to that dark and thrilling era when dragon ships first touched the soil of America. For centuries, in the icebound regions of Scandinavia, the stories of a group of brave sailors were passed down by word of mouth. These were known as the Icelandic sagas, or the Vinland sagas. Two ancient epics tell the story of this incredible expedition: the saga of Eric the Red and the saga of the Greenlanders. But modern historians long dismissed these stories as mere folklore or mythical legends. They believed that the Vikings went as far as Greenland at best, and that crossing the Atlantic was impossible for them. But what was written in those stories? They spoke of a daring young Viking named Leif Erikson, the son of Eric the Red. Around the year 1000 AD, Leif Erikson set sail with 35 of his comrades in a single wooden ship. Leif Erikson pushed forward along that uncharted path, fighting the icy ocean winds and massive waves. They first reached a vast, rocky land. They did not stop. Moving further south, they found a land of thick forests, which they named Markland. Finally, they arrived at a place where the climate was mild, the rivers were teeming with massive salmon, and wild grapevines grew everywhere. Leif Erikson named this new territory Vinland, meaning the land of wine or pasture. But the question remained, did this fairy tale-like story actually happen, or was it merely the product of the Vikings' fertile imagination? For nearly 960 years, Leif Erikson's voyage remained confined to the pages of the sagas.
Until 1960, the entire world firmly believed that Christopher Columbus was the first European to touch American soil.
But in 1960, at the northernmost tip of Newfoundland, Canada, in a quiet fishing village called Lanso, Helge Ingstad, a Norwegian explorer, and his archaeologist wife, Anne Steen Ingstad, were searching the Atlantic coast for signs of Vinland. A local resident pointed them towards some mysterious mounds buried beneath the grass. But when the Ingstads began their excavation, an incredible truth emerged from beneath the soil.
They discovered the foundations of 8 large buildings made of sod and peat.
The architectural style was not indigenous American. It was identical to the Viking settlements of Iceland and Greenland. Buried there, they found an ancient iron-smelting furnace, small fragments of worked wood, and a bronze ring-headed pin. The indigenous peoples of that era did not use iron, yet iron nails were found scattered throughout the settlement. It was no longer a myth. The evidence was undeniable. The Vikings had reached North America centuries before Columbus. But how old was this settlement? Exactly when did they build their homes here? For decades, scientists could only... Then, In 2021, a breakthrough in modern science solved the mystery once and for all. In the year 993 AD, a massive solar storm, a cosmic ray event, struck the Earth, causing that year, every living tree on Earth absorbed this radiation, leaving a distinct marker or ring in its trunk.
Scientists began studying 3 pieces of wood recovered from Meadows.
These logs had been cut using iron axes, which the indigenous population did not possess. This proved they were chopped by the Vikings. When researchers examined the tree rings under a microscope, they found the exact radioactive marker from the 993 AD solar storm. They then counted the subsequent rings from that marker to the outer bark. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20.
In every single piece of wood, there were exactly 29 rings after the solar storm marker.
This meant the trees were felled precisely 29 years after 993 AD. Exactly 1,000 years ago, in 1021 AD, a group of Vikings was clearing timber in the forests of Newfoundland. This raises an obvious question. If the Vikings had conquered America long before Columbus, why didn't they stay? Why doesn't America speak a Nordic language today instead of English or Spanish?
The answer lies within the pages of the sagas, and a harsh reality.
When the Vikings arrived in Vinland, they did not realize that this vast land was already the home of millions of indigenous people. The Vikings referred to these locals as Skraelings.
At first, there was peaceful trade. The Vikings offered milk and red cloth in exchange for valuable animal pelts. But this peace did not last.
According to the sagas, one day a wild bull escaped from the Viking enclosure and roared loudly in front of the indigenous traders. Having never seen such a massive beast, they fled into the forest in terror.
A few days later, they returned, but this time, they came for war. Hundreds of indigenous warriors.
Though the Vikings had iron weapons and armor, they were severely outnumbered.
Leif Erikson's family realized that no matter how fertile and beautiful this land was, living here in peace was impossible. Furthermore, their home base in Greenland was thousands of miles away. Navigating the treacherous, storm-swept seas made it...
Ultimately, after only a few years, the Vikings burned their dwellings and abandoned the shores of America forever.
After the Vikings left, the stories of Vinland became nothing more than winter fireside tales whispered in the turf houses of Iceland.
The rest of Europe remained completely unaware of this monumental geographic discovery.
Yet, if the Vikings had managed to stay, the entire course of world history would be different. Massive Viking cities might have risen across America, and instead of Washington, giant statues of Thor or Odin might have dominated the skyline. But history follows its own path. Nearly 5 centuries after the Vikings departed, Spanish explorers set sail.
Still, the truth of history cannot be buried forever.
Today, standing in the cold wind of Meadows, one can still see the reconstructed sod outlines of those ancient Viking homes.
Leif Erikson may not have established a permanent empire, but he and his crew achieved a feat of human daring that still thrills us today. They proved that with absolute courage and a simple wooden ship, humanity can conquer the very edge of the world. Columbus's name may be written in gold in the history books, but the very first sailors to conquer the Atlantic.
What are your thoughts on this incredible history? Who do you think is the true discoverer of America, Leif Erikson or Christopher Columbus? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to watch more hidden and thrilling historical documentaries like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Shadow Archive Docu, and press the bell icon. Don't forget to let us know in the comments which ancient civilization's mysteries you want us to explore in our next video. Thank you.